But if you shop for the wrong things, you're not going to be happy. So I believe in these two currencies: money, objective energy you put into the flow to get what you want. Shop for the right things with the right reasons, you'll be happy. But there's also another currency that blends with that, the currency of faith.
What's going on, guys? Mike Ashabi here, and welcome to another episode of the True Life Network podcast. Today, I have a very special guest with me that you may have heard of. He's the co-founder of Sports One Marketing and former CEO of the Lee Steinberg Sports and Entertainment Agency, which was the inspiration for the movie Jerry Maguire. His life mission is to serve over 1 billion people to help them be happy. Now, how does he plan on executing on this simple yet powerful mission? By providing value. Ladies and gentlemen, today I bring to you David Meltzer. David, thank you for joining us.
What a wonderful introduction. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you joining us today. So real quick, I know you have a hectic schedule. 2 days ago you were in New York, then you went to Philadelphia, flew in today to Miami, then you were at a couple of different events, and then you made it here. What time is it? It's about 11 o'clock tonight. How do you deal with your schedule?
For me, it's a matter of activity. So one of the key constructs of what I study is time. And a lot of people don't realize that there's two different time structures in the world. One is man-made construct of time. That's the speed of light. It's the time that the sun takes a particle of light to get to Earth. It's 186,000 miles per second. But in order to effectuate that activity for 24 hours, we can utilize the speed of thought. See, we were born with a higher power of thinking. The speed of thought moves so much faster than the speed of light. And so what I look at is, what am I going to do with this 24 hours of activity? How efficient, effective, and statistically successful can I be? I use a lens of productivity, meaning everything I planned, I don't have planned in my sleep. How productive am I? How accessible am I? Meaning accessible to you, your crew, and all those other events that I did. And also, how am I accessing what I want? How am I receiving what I want? And then finally, the superpower of time, believe it or not, is gratitude. Because perception is gratitude. And if I can find the light, the love, and the lessons in all the activity, time then bends. I live in the thoughtfulness of time, not in the man-made construct of 24 hours. There is no work, there is no busy, there's simply activity I get paid for, activity I don't get paid for, activity I planned, activity I don't have planned. And that has set me free and allowed me to be one of the most efficient, effective, and statistically successful people I know.
So there's one thing that you said right there that I actually liked. It was the whole the perception is gratitude, right? So I have a concept, right? Your mind is the one thing that has the true power to either make you or break you, right? And the reason behind that is because I always say that your perception will dictate how you feel. How you feel will dictate how you act, and how you act will determine your results, right? So can you dive deeper, because I believe in gratitude, right? It allows you to manifest what you want in life. So can you elaborate a little bit deeper on that concept?
Yeah, so gratitude as a superpower, a muscle, if you think about what you just said, it says that you give meaning to everything you see. And within the context of giving meaning to what you see, gratitude is the key component that if we look at, for example, pain, setbacks, failures, mistakes, and we look at it through the lens of gratitude, we now see pain, setbacks, failures, and mistakes as a turn signal. It actually is propelling us to something better, a better situation. It allows us to find in the pain, setback, or failure, mistake, the light, the love, and the lesson, which gives it a positive feeling. But like you said, your perception dictates how you feel dictates how well we act, and how well we act is how well we get the results that we want, how quickly, how accurately we get those. So for me, gratitude is everything. And when you see at the context, 3 laws are related to gratitude. 1, the law of gravity is actually related to gratitude. What do I mean? That most people don't realize the earth is spinning, hurling, and rotating so quickly that in physics, metaphysics, and quantum physics, we should be flying away. But you have to believe there's a law of of gravity that says, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm at the right place at the perfect time. That's essential. Most people skip that point because once you realize I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, I'm exactly at the right place at the perfect time, now you can use, through gratitude, the law of Goya, Goya, get off your ass. Most people don't get off their ass and make it happen. Why? Because they don't realize they're already exactly where they're supposed to be, so they don't have a strong foundation, and they're always looking at what? Three things. What other people want for them, what they don't want, or what's missing. And guess what they get? What other people want for them, what they don't want, or it's missing. But if you utilize the law of gravity with the law of Goya, now the law of attraction and allowance take place. That we actually realize, one, I am happy, I am healthy, I am wealthy, and I am worthy. Instead of trying to go get happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy, we actually shift the paradigm and say to ourselves through gratitude, what am I doing to interfere with what I already have? And all of these things are integrated and aggregated together to give us that perception of simply saying thank you, not taking for granted what other people are wishing for, not taking for granted what we ourselves are wishing for, which is something that I've learned through my own journey where I took for granted not only what other people were wishing for, but I myself had been wishing my entire life to have everything, to be rich, to be married to my dream girl, to have a beautiful family, and I almost threw it all away because I lost my gratitude.
Well, you touched on a lot of good points. I do want to get into your story in just a bit, but there's so much value right there. You know, a lot of great nuggets that you just said that I want to touch on. So the whole concept right there that you were talking about in regards to basically the action part, right? So I tell everybody the reason why people don't take action is because they don't truly understand what's going on internally, right? They know what they want, right? They have a general idea, right? But the problem is it's because it's in generalities that they don't understand how to intentionally act, right? So you have to go, you know, even in my book I talk about we all have greatness within us, but it takes you to go within to bring it out to the world. I basically utilize the canvas, the success canvas, right? Where there's an iceberg, success on the top, you know, underneath the water, it's like late nights, rejection, consistency, etc., right? I use that as an analogy with greatness, right? The deeper you go within internally, you know, the more of your greatness you bring out to the world. And the reason why I say that is because I feel that most people are allowing the external to control what's going on internally, when in reality, if you take control and, master the internal game, you can master and influence, you can basically manifest what you want externally by influencing it with your intentional actions, right? So going back to the whole action and intention, the concept with basically understanding that internal game, right? Why do you think, once again, everybody's, thinking about generalities and then not getting specific, right? When you're specific, you're clear, right? You have a clear way of doing it. When there's a will, there's a way. It's just that understanding. Why do you think that people allow the external to influence what's going on internally and they can't have that clear understanding of what they truly want rather than what their environment wants?
Because they don't look at what they want in a deep enough manner. They're not more interested than interesting. So it's much easier to listen to what other people want for you or look at what's missing and what's not there or what we don't want than it is to take the time to take inventory of what we want personally, experientially, giving wise, and receiving wise. See, once you know what you want, then you can make it easy on yourself by finding out who can help you and who you can help. Then the how becomes even easier by utilizing, you actually stated in a different way, what I call the mathematical equation of luck. What I pay attention to, the what and the who, and give my intention to, what I think, say, do, believe, and even understanding my personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions, what I define as an unconscious competency. What I pay attention to and what I give intention to equals the coincidences in my life. And when the coincidences in my life align with what I want, people are like, oh my God, Mike and Dave are so lucky. How are they married to such beautiful women? How are they rich? Like everything. Why? Because I know what I want, who can help me and who I can help and how to get it done. In other words, the key indicator of the mathematical equation of luck is knowing my now. See, I know how to prioritize what to do. Most people are procrastinating or lazy, not because they want to be. It's because they haven't taken the time to figure out what's most important to them. Because once you know what's most important to you, you can easily evaluate it and act upon it immediately. Now, the thing that's interesting is most people try to go find their why while they're looking what other people want for them, what they don't want, and what's missing. And it just grows and grows and grows when what you don't want comes. And you keep on exaggerating and exacerbating that instead of applying your why, implying your desire that you must be what you can be to the what, the who, the how, and the now. When you apply your why to your life, what you realize, this clarity that you're talking about, it brings balance and focus. But what it allows you to do is take control. What do we have control of? Our mindset, right? You've mentioned that. Our heart set, so we have control of what we think, how we feel, our heart set. But we also have control of the prioritization mechanism of what's most important in our lives. We have control of our decisions. And once people realize to look within, I have control of my mindset, my heart set, and my conscious continuum to prioritize what's most important to me, not what other people want, not what's missing, what I don't want. All of a sudden, this unbelievable mathematical equation of luck occurs, and you have exactly what you dreamed of. The coincidences keep on coming, and you start seeing things like pain as a turn signal pushing you to something better instead of a punishment that's stopping you from what you want.
100%. It's all that perception, right? You know, and I always tell everybody it's kind of hard to see it in the moment when you're going through that pain, but then, you know, 10 months later, 12 months later, right, you all of a sudden look back and you're just like, I'm glad that happened, right? So it's all that perception of realizing, hey, you know what? Going from that victim to that victor mentality, right? Like, instead of why me, try me, right? So I always tell everybody that, you know, when you're going through those tough moments, try to switch that mindset and say, hey, you know what? You know, there's that quote, you know, the world is not happening to me, it's happening for me, right? It's basically just adversity coming your way.
Yeah, and I got to change that quote because I tell people all the time, because I've lived in all those worlds, right? The world's happened to me, I was a victim, the world of not enough. Then it happened for me, which is like a Joel Osteen thing, right? The world's happening for you. I take it to the next level. I think the world's happening through me. See, the biggest paradigm shift in my life was when I had children. I know you're going to have your first child. When I had children, someone told me, Dave, do you know the way you feel about your children? What you will do for your children, what you will give to your children, what you would sacrifice, what that feels like? I'm like, yeah, I know. I didn't even understand the way my mom felt about me, but now that I have my own, I know what I would do. And then they told me what the world of through me meant. Because there is an omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source that isn't like us, that ignorant, we try our best, but we don't really know what we don't know. That's why we shouldn't take ourselves so seriously. But there's an omniscient, all-powerful, all-knowing source that feels the same way about me that I feel about my children.
You think it was your mom?
Yeah. But honestly, think about it. That means the world comes through me. I'm receiving everything with appreciation, adding value to it, acknowledging it, acquiring the knowledge of what I have by giving it away. Leaving a bigger vessel for me to fill only if I ask for what I want, who can help me, who I can help, how to get it done and prioritize correctly. If I keep giving away and appreciating and giving away and appreciating, pretty soon the old adage, the more I give, the more I receive, takes place. But you have to receive first because you can't give what you don't have.
100%. And it's actually funny that you mentioned this because this is something that you helped me. And not to lie, it's helped me propel my business, right? You told me that there's 2 questions that you got to memorize, right? 1, how can I help you, right? But more importantly, how can you help me, right? Because you were telling me, I remember.
Better, do you know anyone that can
Do you know anyone who can help me?
It spreads the wealth.
You know, I remember when we were speaking about this, you were telling me that it really hit me with like a ton of bricks because at the time, you know, I was never asking anybody for help, right? But once I started asking people for help, I dropped the ego, like you said. Most people have that. What you were telling me was that most people have, you know, they're humble enough to go ahead and ask, who can I help, right?
Sure, yeah.
But the ego's in the way of asking who can help me.
Yeah.
And I remember that because that just
changed my life too. People ask me all the time. I lost over $100 million, as you know, and
which we're going to get into.
Right. In which they say how you get it back. I said, look, I lost it by the same way I got it back. I never asked anyone for help. I was a millionaire 9 months out of law school. I was Midas until I was 36. I literally ran Samsung's phone division, then the most notable sports agency. Everything I touched, real estate, stocks, anything I touched turned to gold. But I figured I knew everything that I needed to know. And once I realized that I never asked for help, I don't know what I don't know, the universe gave me a great lesson of radical humility and said, you better ask for help next time.
100%. I mean, I'm not even joking. So something that I started implementing on my sales calls, was the fact that at the end, even though like I would be very transparent with people, if I believed that my services couldn't help them, I would tell them straight up, hey, what I'm doing here is not something that would be a good fit for you. But let me ask you, see, now they like me and trust me, right?
Of course.
So because I was honest with them and transparent with them, I had the confidence to go in and say, hey, do you know who could benefit from what I'm doing here? Right? And I learned that from you, so I appreciate that.
Because exponentially growing your business.
It's literally helped me build everything that I'm doing here.
And you built a lot, so it's hyper impressive.
I appreciate it. So now I actually want to get into your story. I actually know the story that you went, to law school. After law school, in 9 months, you became a millionaire. By 30, I believe it was 32, am I correct? You became a multi-millionaire, right? Then lost it all. Then somehow, blew back up. How did you blow back up? Come from what you did.
Well, first I had to take stock in who I was. The reason I lost it all was I had no humility left in my life. In fact, 2 years before I lost everything, my wife brought up a key question to me as she was threatening to leave me, telling me I wasn't taking stock in who I was or what I want to become. But she asked me, do you think your mom would be proud of you? And it hit me like a ton of bricks that I had lost all the things my mom had taught me: gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and effective communication. I wasn't living inspired, and I was lying to myself, and I was taking yes for an answer from so many people. So first I had to take stock in myself, gratitude, empathy, and living by these and practicing it every single day, learning to enjoy the consistent every day, persistent without quit, pursuit of my own potential. Not what other people wanted from me, not buying things I didn't need to impress people I didn't like, but literally what I wanted by knowing these values and living by these values. Then, accordingly, over the last 16 years, I started utilizing the daily practices, which I suggested earlier, every day, taking inventory of what I want, who can I help, who can help me, how am I going to get this done with the lenses of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude, shifting the paradigm of time by saying my tomorrow starts today. One of the key adjustments in my life was to have an unwinding routine where I put my mind, my body, my soul into a point of recovery every single evening. So not only to physically recover, but also to receive the download from the universe without my ego interfering. Remember, my new philosophy was I already am healthy, happy, wealthy, and worthy. What am I doing to interfere with it? Not what it used to be, which was I'm going to get healthy, happy, wealthy, and worthy. I got to work really hard. I took work out of my vocabulary. There's activity I get paid for, sure. There's activity I don't get paid for. I vacation every single day. I believe that whatever activity I want to do, that 2 minutes a day is worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday. So I created these non-negotiables for when I couldn't execute on this well-developed plan, because everybody knows when you have a well-developed plan, God's going to laugh at you. So I created non-negotiables, minimum amount of time on my health, minimum time with my family, and a minimum amount of time studying my calendar. And that shifted the entire paradigm of what I do, how I do it, creating productivity, accessibility, and gratitude, creating efficiency, effectiveness, and statistical success in everything I do. I learned how can I make a lot of money by buying, because money's great, right? Bradley, our friend, taught me a great line, right? Money doesn't buy you happiness, but it allows you to shop. And then I added to his lesson, I said, yeah, it allows you to shop, but if you shop for the right things for the right reasons, you're going to be happy. See, money does allow you to shop, but if you shop for the wrong things, you're not going to be happy. So I believe in these two currencies: money, objective energy you put into the flow to get what you want, shop for the right things with the right reasons, you'll be happy. But there's also another currency that blends with that, the currency of faith, an objective energy that I put into the flow. So when things happen, as they will every day, that I don't want to happen, or I lose my mindset, my heart center, my conscious continuum, and I get in my own way by having interference like the need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty, resentful, any of these feelings waste time, emotion, and value, and money. I simply stop, drop, and roll. I don't fight it, go over it, under it, through it, around it, oversell it, back and sell it, lie to it, manipulate, cheat it like I used to. I simply stop, breathe through my nose, out through my mouth, and I roll back into the right trajectory, the what, the who, the how, the now, and apply my why.
So it was the what, the who, the why,
the how.
The how.
So the what, the who can I help, who can help me, how, through the lenses of productivity, accessible, and gratitude. The now, which is prioritization by those what, who, and how. And then I apply my why by stop, drop, and roll. See, when you're in ego-based consciousness with all those needs, what triggers you to waste your time, emotion, money, and value, when you're in that, your mind, your body, and soul are on fire. What do you do when you're on fire? Stop, drop, and roll.
I like that. I'm going to use that.
Anytime, it's all yours.
So you touched on the why, right? And I always tell everybody that when it comes down to the why, like if you don't understand the reason why you're doing something, you're not going to achieve it, right? But more importantly, that why has to have a pain point attached to it, right? And, the reason why I say that is because if I didn't go through what I went through about 6 years ago when I hit, a certain point in my life where I didn't want to live anymore, if I didn't go through that and I didn't hear certain people speaking, for example, music was a big inspiration in my life, right? I heard the words of Eminem and he said, now I could have either sat on my ass and pissed and moaned or take the situation in which I'm in and get up and get my own. And I think that one person with that one line, when I heard that, shifted my perspective. Because that was the victim to victor mentality, right? That wasn't taking that personal responsibility. I was blaming everything, the situations, the circumstances, the different people I was surrounding myself with. And it made me realize, hey, you know what? Instead of pointing my fingers, why aren't I pointing the finger at me, right? But going back to the why and the pain point, how important do you think the pain point is in regards to the why?
It's interesting because I see pain not as a point, but as an indicator. And so if you don't have or find the light, the love, and the lesson in pain, then it's going to do nothing for you. You'll reset that same thermostat. You'll continue to wonder why you're living the myth of Sisyphus. Camus wrote The Stranger about the guy who pushed the boulder to the top of the hill just to have it roll down every day. People live their lives like tubes. Food in, food out. Food in, food out. Check in, check out. Instead, pain has to be an indicator of a lesson to learn. If you learn that lesson, then it's absolutely essential to the growth, acceleration, and expansion that you're looking for. If pain is just present and you don't learn from the pain, see, you took Eminem's unbelievable lyrics and you learned about your pain, and it allowed you to shift your perspective and move to a better place, a better situation, to make your situation better. It was a simple switch, but pain itself became a turn signal for you. If you didn't learn that lesson, you may have killed yourself, stayed in the same place, ended up spiraling even farther until some other pain point created a lesson and there was something there that either someone planted a seed or something in your awareness was present in order to effectuate the turn that you needed to take, a different shift in the mindset, heart set, and continuum that you wanted to take in order to be in a better place, a better situation. So pain is necessary, but even more poignant, in my opinion, is the lesson that you learn from pain. See, it's a simple analogy. I've used the faith analogy before about the all-powerful, all-knowing. So think about it. When you were 3 years old, you saw your first fire. And I promise you said to yourself, oh, that fire looks warm, it looks cool. I'm gonna put my hand in that fire. And your mom either screamed at you or hit your hand. And it hurt. Either way, the screaming or hitting your hand.
Or you put your hand in there.
Or you hit your hand in there, there's pain. Now, if you didn't learn something, would the pain go away? No, because you stick your hand back into the fire. But since you learned something, the majority of people, almost everyone learned something, where are they? A better position, a better situation, or they made their situation better. Never to put their hand in something that's hot again, especially fire.
There's so many different routes that I can go with this right now. So I'm going to touch on 2 points, right? So going back to the whole why and the pain point, my perspective on it, and you actually gave me some light to this because you just said, it's a lesson, right? I call it more awareness, right? Mm-hmm. Because I always tell everybody, when it comes down to the why, you need to know the reason why you're doing what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, you don't know where you've been, right? If you don't know that painful spot, how are you going to stay intentional with the actions to get you out of that spot, right? If the why doesn't have that pain point, you're going to be pushing to achieve it, right? That will die out. Why do you think people get burned out? They don't know the real reason why they're trying to achieve something. But if you actually know the why, and there's that pain point attached to it, creates that pull. It's that thing that wakes you up every morning, keeps you up at night, constantly trying to improve, right? So that's my concept with the why. So going back to perspective and bringing things to fruition, mm-hmm. right? In order to actually shift your perspective, what do you think are the necessary steps that individuals need to take in order to, shift that perspective to stay intentional with their actions?
So I think there's a 3-step process. So, your perspective as it is has a 0 weight to it. When you imagine something different, all of a sudden what you imagine, when you know what you want personally, experientially, giving and receiving wise, it becomes a possibility. Now, that possibility will remain just a possibility until you become inspired, in spirit. See, motivation, some of the things that you talk about to me are just motivation. And I think you'll learn as you unravel some of your philosophies about pain and motivation. Motivation gets you up, gets you back up, gets you started, gets you back started. That's what's keeping you up at night or waking you up early in the morning. The problem with motivation is a soul sucker. Pain, fear, is a soul sucker, but it will get you up. I mean, incredible feats are caused because of fear, of pain. Incredible. But in order to get you there, you have to be inspired. To take a possibility, if you can become inspired in spirit, clearing the interference between you and the all-knowing, all-powerful source, then your possibility becomes a probability. But what you're asking is, once you are inspired, how do you turn that probability into my perspective or my reality? Because your perspective is your reality. 3 components. 1, discipline. Consistency is the key component to success. 2 minutes a day is worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday. Why? Because the conscious continuum works that way, from the cellular memory to the neural pathways in the subconscious to shifting your unconscious competence to your quantum being. Your personality characteristics, your traits, all of these things, obsessions and addictions, will change. You can break the energetic and genetic inheritance that you have by being consistent. So discipline, number 1. 2, strategy. The strategy, whatever you implement or I implement that's right for me it's being a student of my calendar, knowing my what, my who, my how, my now, and applying my why. Those are all my strategies. It doesn't mean it's the only strategy. It's ones that are more aligned with or synergistic or supplementary to my conscious, subconscious, and unconscious makeup. We all have different potentials. So discipline, strategy, and then the key component you mentioned earlier, awareness. We can only be aware of that which vibrates equal to and less than us. So if I increase my potential, my awareness by doing good deeds, having thoughtfulness in what I do, being kind, all the truths, because the thing that vibrates the fastest is the truth. So the closer I live to my truth, my potential, or being true to myself or to others, the higher my awareness. Once I raise my awareness with discipline and strategy, guess what? What I'm inspired with, my probability becomes my perspective. When your awareness equals the thoughts that you have, it becomes your perspective. It's your reality. So it's not just saying to someone, see the glass half full or see the glass overflowing. It's when that perspective or awareness combines with the discipline and strategy that I actually believe or have a perspective that my glass is half full or it is overflowing. That's my reality. Possibility, probability, perspective, it comes from clarity, balance, and focus, being inspired on what you want, and then utilizing discipline, strategy, and awareness to effectuate your perspective.
You know what's crazy? So, you know why I called it true. You know why I called it true life? So basically, what you just said, in just different terms, right? So the first concept is becoming self-aware, right? And the thing that I realized when I was going through my pain point is that I was not facing the truth, right?
Lying to yourself.
Exactly. And that's something that I was extremely passionate about. When I hit that point and I realized that, I wasn't facing it, I wanted to help other people face their truth, just like Eminem helped me face my truth, right? So I wanted to get that message, live your truth, face your truth, so else, because the truth will set you free, it'll allow you to live your true life, right? But here's the thing. In order to do so, you need to go within. You need to have that clarity internally, right? And the definition of self-love, this is something that Will Smith talks about. The definition of self-love is self-discipline, right? And the way he describes it is that if you truly love yourself, you're going to stay disciplined to do whatever it takes to get the life that you want. If you're not staying disciplined to do whatever it takes to get the life that you want, do you truly love yourself, right? But here's the thing, how do you stay disciplined when you don't know what's going on internally and you have that full understanding of what you want? And he talks about this too. Self-love, right? Love is a key word. L-U-V. He says love is spelled L-U-V. Listen, understand, and validate. And I use this concept with sales, not only sales, but with myself as well. Because if I can't do it myself, how can I do it with another individual, right? So in order to effectively communicate with another individual, I have to be able to listen to myself, so deeply that I have a true deep connection with myself, where I understand myself at another level, right? Then I validate myself by going ahead and taking action in regards to what I understand about myself. When I do that, it'll allow me to actually effectively communicate with someone else by listening to them, connecting the dots, understanding them, and then validating them by responding accordingly, right? But I can't do that unless I do it myself. So that's basically the whole concept with True Life, because at the end of the day, you have to do that work, right? It's a 4-letter people don't like, that most people don't like work, right? Because it's actually activity, like you were saying. And most people like to just stay comfortable. So you have to get comfortable you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, facing your own truth, which once again, the truth will set you free and it'll allow you to take action to live your true life, right? So going back to the whole, I know we went off topic. I want to learn more about your story and the whole marketing game, right? Because I know you were, going to become a lawyer. You went to law school, and then you transitioned into, a different industry. So I kind of want to get a little background on that.
Yeah, so one of the advantages of growing up poor and wanting to be rich is that you keep your options open to try to make the most money you can. I thought money would buy me happiness and love, but I knew it would buy my mom a house and a car, and I knew that would make me happy. Since the only time I wasn't happy as a child, my mom grew up, raised 6 kids on her own, packed my dinner in a paper bag in a Country Squire station wagon, filled up turnstiles at convenience stores with greeting cards just so we could eat. I knew if I could make a lot of money, I could buy her a house and a car, and then I'd be completely happy, because that's the only time I wasn't happy, was when something financially became stressful in my family. But nonetheless, I graduated law school, keeping my options open. I got a sales job in the internet.
It's the way to go.
Yeah. But the funny thing was, my mom, who was an academic, who believed the fetus wasn't fully developed till after graduate school, that believed you were either a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure, I had to tell her that I was going to turn down a $150,000 litigation job in order to sell the internet in 1992. My mom's response immediately, got to be a real lawyer. The internet's a fad. This is a big mistake. Why would you do this? And absolutely thought I was crazy. One of the greatest lessons of my life from that was, just because somebody loves you, and trust me, my mom loves me more than anyone could love a child, probably too much, doesn't mean they give me good advice. So I learned at a very young age, to pursue my potential, to not worry about what other people thought. People always laughed at me, made fun of me, mocked me, and eventually they applauded me, which gave me confidence in the internet and what I was going to do. And as you stated, 9 months out of law school, I was a millionaire. 3 years after that, we sold the company for $3.4 billion, setting me into a different trajectory into the Silicon Valley and Sand Hill Road, raising hundreds of millions of dollars. And by the time I was 30, I ran Samsung's phone division. Lee Steinberg hired me, not because I was a lawyer, not because I love sports. He hired me to run the most notable sports agency, the one they made the movie Jerry Maguire about, because I knew technology. And he saw the future of sports, as well as other industries, as needing someone that understood the business of technology and the business of sports, which set my life in a whole nother trajectory. The only problem was, at that time, I lost my humility, my gratitude, forgiveness, and accountability, and my inspiration. So I started thinking that I knew what I didn't know, but I thought I knew everything, and bought things I didn't need to impress people I didn't like. I started to believe my own BS, started to take yes for an answer from everyone in my life. And 2 years, as I stated before, I lost everything. My wife threatened to leave me. 2 years after that, in 2008, I lost over $100 million, and built it back through that paradigm shift of knowing that I'm happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy. What am I doing to interfere with it? I'm going to live with gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and effective communication. One of the other key lessons that I learned was time, though. And we started, talking about time a little bit, and the time, man construct of time and thoughtfulness. But one of the biggest, most damaging things that people do is they attach their energy in motion, their emotion, to an outcome. That actually slows down time. It creates resistance. It actually stops you from getting what you want. I learned to re-engineer my emotions. You said about The way we think is the way we feel. The way we feel is the way we act. The way we act determines our success. I started to put my emotion, my energy and motion, into the enjoyment of the consistent, persistent pursuit of milestones of my potential, not attaching to outcomes that, oh, I'll be happy when I make my first million. I'll be happy when I make this money back. I'll be happy when I have a child. You're never happy if you attach your emotions to an outcome. So through all of this paradigm shifting, it created this abundance. And then later on in my life, as I built my own brand, I have TV shows and movies and books, and I speak around the world and have, top podcasts, both in sports and entrepreneurship now. And the key to life is I'm happy. And my mission in life is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy by finding 1,000 people like you. I'm blessed to work with you, Mike. And, I know that in your life, you're so young that you'll empower 1,000 people to empower another 1,000 people to be happy by making a lot of money, something you're really good at, helping a lot of people, another thing you're really good at, and most importantly, having fun. So you're not going to take yourself seriously while you're doing it. I always say implement rule number 6. Xander's wrote about rule number 6. He said rule number 6 in life is don't take yourself so seriously. And somebody asked Xander's, you never talk about rule 1 through 5. He said, oh, that's easy. Rule 1 through 5, go to rule number 6. And I think a lot of people take themselves so seriously. They think they know what they know. If you understand math and data, how could you know anything? There's trillions of data points. Trillions. So just be humble and ask for help. Understand you don't know what you don't know. You can only do your best. And as long as you're learning, you're going to keep on doing better. It's progress, not perfection.
I like that. No, I mean, it's interesting because I don't know if you know who Nick Santonastasso is, do you? Yeah. So I did an interview with him, and he was talking about self-integrity, right? And he was saying, okay, you know what you want, you make promises to yourself, right? And every time you make promises to yourself, you're diminishing your own self-integrity, right? You don't believe in yourself, which ultimately leads to confidence, right? And at the end of the day, confidence and that progression is going to lead to happiness, because the key factor of what is going to make you happy is progression, right? So allowing yourself to stay, on that route where you're keeping the promises to yourself, you're staying intentional with your actions in regards to what you understand and you're promising yourself, is going to allow you to get those little wins, right? Whether big or small, little wins, and that's what's going to give you that sense of fulfillment, which is going to give you that key ingredient to happiness, right? So I kind of want to go a little bit into happiness, right? Because I know that's your biggest mission right now, trying to help over 1 billion people, to help them be happy. What's your perspective on fulfillment and happiness, and how can people go ahead and utilize what they understand about what's happening now in order to be happy?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the idea of receiving, right? So to be fulfilled means that you have enough or more than enough or just enough. Those people that live in the world of more than enough, in between limitlessness and infinity, are always fulfilled. And then happiness is derived by expanding, growing, and accelerating that fulfillment, meaning appreciating that fulfillment, forgiving yourself for the mistakes that you made in order to expand, grow, and appreciate, being accountable, asking yourself, what did I do to attract this to myself? What am I supposed to learn from it? See, most people live in the world of liability, blame, shame, and justification. And if you live with gratitude, forgiveness, and accountability, you'll understand that the effective communication that occurs, not just between you and I, who are, obviously connected, but we have to effectively communicate, clear the interference between you and I, the ego, the attacks, the judgments and conditions, the separation, inferiority, or superiority that exists. But most importantly, we have to really start by effectively communicating with that which we always are connected to, that which is the most powerful, all-knowing, all-powerful energy source that we draw from. You have Bob Proctor says, enough power in your pinky to light up all of Manhattan. Imagine how much you're interfering with that. Imagine if you have that much power just in your pinky, what are we doing through ego? See, we're not afraid that we're not going to get stuff done. I think we're more afraid of what we're connected to and through. We are afraid of the enormous, limitless infinity that we are connected to and through, the enormous power that we have, and we're afraid to liberate that light in us, and we're afraid to allow it to liberate others with that light. So we diminish our capacity, like you said, by questioning ourselves or doubting ourselves or promising ourselves, we're diminishing our capacity. We're creating interference, hiding ourselves, limiting ourselves. So instead of, wanting to be celebrators or elevators, we're celebrity. So for me, I know I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and worthy. What am I doing to interfere with it? I, number one, have to identify the triggers of the ego. See, the ego, here's what happens in that case study there, is that the ego has its primal fears. The need to fight, feed, flee, or the other F word that Gary Vee likes to use. And all of them have the same impact on our physiological being, meaning that when we're afraid in the primal fear, blood leaves our brain and goes to our body so we can fight, feed, flight, or the other F word. And what we're doing is rendering the most powerful, higher power of thinking literally powerless. We're taking all the fuel out of it. There's no blood there. And so we make stupid decisions. So if we can identify what triggers those primal fears, I mentioned a few earlier, the need to be right, the need to worry. Worrying's wishing for what you don't want. The need to be offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, angry, guilty. If we can identify those triggers, then we can go ahead and stop. Right? We can go ahead and clear that interference by simply breathing, stopping, going to neutral or center, and then going and moving and utilizing our energy that we have in the right way, instead of diminishing its capacity or wasting the capacity by either lessening ourselves, doubting ourselves, wishing for what we don't want, what's missing, or what other people want, or even worse, utilizing that energy to accelerate in the wrong direction with attacks, judgments, and conditions, anger, anxiety, frustration, things that are just going to put us farther away from what we want. And when we can determine, I am blank, what am I doing to interfere with it? What we're doing to interfere with it is those triggers of the ego. We can identify the triggers of ego and then practice stop, drop, and rolling. You'll see that the interference is cleared, not only between us and the all-powerful and all-knowing, but us and everything else in our lives. And all of a sudden, we live in a world of more than enough, between limitlessness and infinity, and we have peace, happiness, perspective, wealth, worthiness, all of the things that we already am. And it's validating, as you stated earlier, what we are.
So, all right, this question is going to get interesting here, all right? So, you know what the fear cycle is, correct? Okay, so fear leads into dissociation. Dissociation leads into loss. Loss leads into, I believe it's grumpiness, right? Grumpiness leads into anger, right? Because at the end of the day, when you're upset that like you're not able to actually contribute, you're grumpy, you're in a bad mood, creates anger, and then by the time you actually have to go back to actually facing that task, guess what? It leads into fear again, dissociation, etc., right? So if you were looking at that, right, and we're trying to change our perspective on ego, right, and trying to really get in tune with ourselves, and we're trying to better our situations, right, we're conditioned, typically by our environment, to try to boost ourselves up. Now, how can we, I know metacognition is a form of actually allowing us to break the cycle so that we can go ahead and really humble ourselves to be more aware, because at the end of the day, if you're utilizing ego, you're not humble, you're not aware, right? So how can we actually go ahead and, whether it's a different form of metacognition, but really step out of the ego and break the cycle of when we're in certain situations? Because I know the mind, right? So basically when we're in certain situations that has memories are stored in our brain, right, through our neural pathways. Now, when we're in certain similar situations, it provokes certain emotional responses based off our memories, and our body takes over those emotional responses, right? So how can we break, let's say we were trying to progress in certain areas, such as, let's say we go to a bar, want to talk to a girl, right? And we had a bad experience the first time, right? How can we utilize metacognition as well as the fear cycle to break that fear cycle so that we don't go ahead and act the same way in a different scenario?
Yeah, so that's a conscious continuum. And so it takes practice, number one. And what we need to practice is understanding that the repetition puts into the cellular memory a new feedback. And after a minimum of 21 days, it creates a neural pathway in the subconscious, which hosts about 40,000 of the same thoughts. Those thoughts send a frequency to your unconscious competency, to the energetic and genetic inheritance that you have of these insecurities, fears, interferences, I call them, and that there's an epigenetic layer of the genetic, the DNA, that holds that long-term memory. And so the more that we have this activity or consistent behavior, the greater and deeper the neural pathway will be, and the 40,000, the same thoughts, the stronger the signal will be to the unconscious competency or my quantum memory, my personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions. So in the case of, hitting on a girl at a bar, if we have a bad experience the first time, we need to practice. And it doesn't mean we have to go to the bar and practice. We can practice at home. We can practice in a mirror. We can practice on a video. And then through that, then we're able to change those midterm memories, the neural pathways that are in our subconscious that are reinforcing the frequency to the genetic, energetic inheritance that we have. We're breaking the chain of behavioral inheritance so that the next time, or if not the next time, at least we spend less and less time in fear. And so my philosophy to any situation is, let's try to get to minutes and moments. I know the ego is present. I know that no matter what I do every day, that I'm going to have the need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, frustrated, guilty, angry, all of these different things. Instead of spending days, weeks, months, years in that fear-based consciousness, the unconscious competencies of interference, I'm going to get down by practicing to get to minutes and moments, utilizing most of the activity in the day in a positive manner to expand, grow, accelerate, aggregate upon itself with what I want, who can help me, who I can help, how to do it, prioritizing what's most important to me, and applying my why, being happy, making money, helping people, etc.
So David, first of all, I just want to say I appreciate you coming out with me, to join us for the podcast. If there were any last, bits and nuggets that you want to tell everybody to help them be happy, what would you tell them?
Well, first of all, I want to offer to anyone. I give 5 minutes to anyone. So anybody can email me. I give all my books for free. You can get an ebook, audiobook. I'll sign a book, send it to you, ship it for free. So put in the notes, david@dmeltzer.com. But most importantly, remember that logic cannot change the way you feel. Too many people waste so much time telling themselves, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Let it go, let it go, let it go. I know that's resonating with so many of you that have sat there. See, action is what changes the way you feel. And you started with that premise. So how do we do and what do we do for the best action? Really simple. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. It's that simple, and you'll be happy.
All right. I appreciate you, honestly, straight up.